This is Connected, showcasing the work of NHS National Services Scotland and our NHS Scotland colleagues.
Hi, and welcome to this episode of the NSS podcast. We're your hosts, Karen and Lisa, and we hope you enjoy all the stories that are coming up today.
Yeah, Karen, this month's episode is a really special one. It's the second part of our International Women's Day special. The first part was launched on International Women's Day, and the second part, which is this part, has been launched at the end of Women's History Month, which is spanned throughout March. We've got some really exciting podcasts coming up. We've got some great interviews with select people from our organisation and from out with NSS.
But also, at the beginning of next month, the 1st of April, is the official start day of our new CEO, Mary Morgan. So, welcome to the Get to Know Our CEO quiz. To celebrate Mary starting officially on the 1st of April, we have a quiz to see if you know something about Mary. Lisa, first question. Anyone listening, you can try and answer as well. In which year did Mary join NSS? 2004, 2008, 2011.
Oh, this is really tough because I know Mary was in post at SMBTS when I joined, which was 2015, so I can't even rule that out. I'm going to say, I'm going to go right up the middle, 2008.
Yay, correct. 2008. Now, so to follow up on that, she obviously didn't just start as CEO. She's just starting that. She first joined as director of which area? Scottish National Blood Transfusion, Procurement Commissioning and Facilities, Health Protection Scotland.
Oh, this is tough. I used to work at the blood transfusion service when Mary was director, but I've also heard that she was director of Health Protection Scotland. I'm going to go for Health Protection Scotland.
Correct. So she must have been SMBTS after that then.
Yep, she was. Yep, that was back in 2015 at least.
Oh, see, there you go. The more you know. So she never worked for PCF, I don't think.
As far as I know, I don't know. No, I think it was Health Protection Scotland, then SMBTS, and then SPST.
Yeah.
And now Chief Exec.
I know, she knows all the different areas. I suppose that's a good spot to be in if you want to be CEO.
Exactly, that's what you want in a Chief Exec.
Exactly. So, Mary was a hospital manager at which hospital between 2003 and 2004? Gartnavel Hospital, Glasgow, Western General Hospital, Edinburgh, or Royal Alexandra Hospital, Paisley?
Oh, this is one that I'm going to need to take a total guess at.
Phone a friend.
Yeah, I don't even know if Mary's West Coast or East Coast.
Oh.
I'm going to guess Western General Hospital, Edinburgh.
No, she worked there, Royal Alexandra Hospital, Paisley actually. Studied at the Western College of Nursing and Midwifery in Glasgow. So yes. Not on her career now, we're moving on to some more general questions. Mary has read all of the books by which prolific American author? Suzanne Collins, Stephen King, or Dan Brown?
Oh, this is tough because I'm not sure what genre Mary would like.
Do you know what books they write? Do you know them all?
I know Dan Brown does some quite deep books. He's done like Da Vinci Code.
Yeah.
Stephen King is like horror. What's Suzanne Collins? What does she do?
The Hunger Games.
Oh, the Hunger. So I think Mary has probably read all of these authors, but I know she likes to go on holiday, and I can't imagine her sitting by the pool reading The Hunger Games or Dan Brown for some reason, so I'm going to go Stephen King.
Correct. It's Stephen King.
What a lucky guess.
No, that was a good guess. It's a good choice as well. I don't know. I don't know if Suzanne Collins would be up her street, if you know what I mean.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I might have to ask her when I next do an interview.
Yep.
Next question. Which American state does Mary refer to, and what does it stand for? So this is a doubler. So first option is Iowa. I only want answers. That seems a bit harsh. Utah. Understand, take action, help. Or Ohio. Get your own house in order.
See, I love all of these acronyms because I think they're all very easy to remember. But the one that is ingrained on my frontal lobe is Ohio, own house in order, because I have heard Mary say this a lot. And it's a mantra that I've tried to take on myself. Get your own house in order first.
Yes, I agree. I have heard that so many times. And other people that we work with say it a lot as well, because obviously they've learned it from Mary and it's just went down. I think everybody says that, and I think it is a really good thing to live by. So fair enough. Right, last question, another fun one, which I know because I was chatting to her the other day, so I won't give away any clues. Which of these activities does Mary enjoy? Riding a bike, Zumba, shopping, or all of the above?
Oh, this is hard. I've heard her speak about Zumba in the office, and when she introduced herself to us, as when she joined as director of SPST, she did mention doing Zumba at her desk. I'm sure. I think it was when she was working from home. So I know Zumba's a definite. But shopping and riding a bike, I haven't heard her mention either of them. But who doesn't love shopping? And when the weather's good, I mean, who doesn't love it? Well, I don't really love riding a bike, actually. I was going to say who doesn't love riding a bike.
Yeah.
Because it's the only option so far that's had all of the above, I'm going to go with all of the above and hedge my bets.
Correct. Yes, all of the above. But yeah, we do hear her talk about Zumba quite a lot. She mentions that in her most recent interview as well. So I think that's one of her top passions, I would like to say. But yeah, I love all those things as well. So I think me and Mary will get on quite well.
Absolutely. What was my final score? How did I do?
I think you only got one wrong.
5 out of 6. That's not too bad. Hopefully people listening along did just as well, if not better.
Yes, we've had quite a few responses so far. So unfortunately, this is for internal only, but if you've read the latest edition of Stay Connected, you will see there is this quiz. So this is kind of a cheat if you've listened to the podcast, but I'll give you that because you listened to the podcast. So I'm happy that you get 100%.
Absolutely, but you can only reward people that listen to the podcast.
Exactly. So yes, that was a get to know Mary quiz. There'll be lots of things on social media. Check out the YouTube channel. We'll be chatting to her over the next couple of days as she steps into her new role, which is all very exciting. Now over to Mary herself to chat about her journey and how she's feeling about the new role.
Thank you, colleagues, for picking up on this recording on what is my first day as the Chief Executive of NHS National Services Scotland, and more importantly, your Chief Executive. It's amazing that I'm speaking to you today because I have been in a period of transition and a period of learning, and suddenly those L plates are completely gone, and I need to step forward with some excitement and enthusiasm into the Chief Executive role. I am responsible now and accountable for the services that we deliver and for the money that we spend. But more importantly to me is that my job is about making your job easier, your job in providing frontline services, either directly to supporting patient care, or perhaps what you see as less directly supporting others delivering care at the front line. Many of you will have known me from the previous roles I've filled within National Services Scotland, I've worked here since 2008. Initially as the Director of Health Protection Scotland, so our high colleagues will remember me. And then as the Director of the Scottish National Blood Transfusion Service, and then as the Director of Strategy, Performance and Service Transformation. So many of you, as I've said, will know me very well, and many of you will have linked up with me throughout my years of service in NSS and will know me quite well. Some of you, many of you, will have only recently joined us throughout this past year of the pandemic, and we're very grateful to you for coming along to help us in our response to the pandemic and to support our teams in that regard. And I look forward to meeting you in person as soon as the situation with the pandemic actually allows. My career obviously goes back further than when I joined NSS, and I have my roots in the health service from quite some time ago as a nurse and then as a ward sister in the Western Infirmary in Glasgow before I moved into Paisley to manage acute hospital services alongside some community and primary care services like GP out of hours, for example. I also then worked across emergency care and medicine in Greater Glasgow and Clyde before joining NSS. It's interesting to me, and one of the things that I've observed is how the past can catch up with you. So in my role as Chief Executive, one of the things that I have done is taken on or inherited some of the chairing of national groups from Colin Sinclair. But one of the ones that I have taken on board is chair of the Scottish Trauma Network. And I'm struck by how what I've learned in the past and in previous roles is joining to make life perhaps a little bit more known to me as a chief executive, something that I can align to and something that I have understood a little bit of, because coming into a new job in a new role, even though I know the organisation and even though I know some of the history and I have spent a long time in the health service, is actually quite daunting, because believe it or not, I am quite human and feel all the same nerves that people must feel when they are joining new roles and being new to the organisation. So I do ask you to be kind to me if I make mistakes, because humans do make mistakes. And also, I'm very keen to hear from you what it is that you would like to see from your chief executive. What's important to you about how we work together? Is there anything that you would like to see done differently? And if so, what do you think I can do to help that happen, to make your life easier and better in the workplace and also at home? So please don't hesitate to get in touch with me, and I hope that you will enjoy seeing future recordings from me and help me to become more visible. Thank you.
Terrific, Mary, and that's a really great summary of your experience both within NSS and the wider public health landscape, Mary. Could you tell us a little bit about Mary the person? So in the rare moments you have away from your role now leading NSS, how will you be spending that time?
Yeah. So I have just a little bit about Mary, who's the person, the non-work person. I'm married. My husband is still working. He's an electronic engineer. We have a son together who is 31 years old. He's married to Fran, and just about a year ago, just under a year ago, they had a baby daughter. So I have a grandbaby daughter who's not quite a year old, and I'm just really hoping that we'll be able to travel to England in order that I can celebrate her first birthday around the middle of June. That would be a really fantastic COVID anniversary present, because we haven't been able to see her. Outside of work, actually, the past year, interestingly, I haven't done anything very much. That's a bit surprising, but I think we've all been in that boat of having to stay home and not go visiting and not going out terribly much. My Zumba classes that I love have all been cancelled and laid to one side. And I have not been great at doing the online classes that so many people are telling me that they do all of the time. My husband and I usually go holidays to the sun quite frequently. We do enjoy the sunshine, and we don't get a lot of that in this country. But of course, that's also all been laid to one side over the past year. So I'm really looking forward to being able to really take a break and enjoy a break from work, and get some sunshine in Spain or the Canary Islands. And I also really enjoy eating out, and I'm really looking forward to restaurants and pubs opening back up again, and not having to go and collect or have a takeaway delivered frequently for eating, because I do quite enjoy that. So yeah, that's all good. I'm also a carer. My stepmother, unfortunately, was diagnosed in the past year with dementia, and she's requiring quite a lot of support. So I do spend a bit of time providing care and help and support to Jan, who has some needs. But that seems to be in a bit of a better place just now, since I moved her closer to me. So that's good.
Thank you very much, Mary, for introducing us to Mary Morgan, Chief Executive, but also to Mary Morgan, mother, grandmother, carer, traveller, Zumba addict, and all the other aspects of your personality as well. And we'll be helping all of our colleagues keep in touch with you regularly, Mary. I know how important that engagement is for you. And thank you very much for your time today. And we look forward to the Mary Morgan era of NSS.
Oh, well, thank you. And thank you, Richard. I really look forward to working with everybody, no matter what the role is. Hierarchy is something that I don't do terribly well. So I know that I'm the Chief Executive, but I'd much rather be a friend, a colleague and a co-worker to all those across NSS and the NHS in Scotland.
Next up, Lisa talked to Lauren Kennedy from NHS 24. She is the lead nurse for mental health and learning disabilities. She also talked to us about International Women's Day and what it means to her.
So today we're joined by Lauren Kennedy, who is lead nurse for mental health and learning disabilities at NHS 24. Thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren.
Absolutely. It's a privilege to come along today and chat with yourself, so thank you so much for the invite.
Oh, you're welcome.
My role is all things mental health and learning disabilities, as you can imagine. I provide clinical leadership to our mental health team, Lisa, which includes the Mental Health Hub, Breathing Space, Living Life, and our mental health and learning disability resources on NHS Inform. I also provide expert advice to our board on legislation, policy, strategy. I feel really privileged to have the role and work with such a caring and compassionate team.
So it sounds like you work with a great team. Who is there to support you in your role?
We have an expanding team, Lisa, more so now with the need for mental health supports due to this pandemic. I work closely with our lead nurse for public protection, our associate medical director for mental health, and our nurse consultant for telehealth care. We've recently appointed a senior nurse for mental health, a practice educator for mental health, and a practice development nurse for learning disabilities, and it's all really, really exciting.
It sounds like a really exciting role with a great team there. Can you tell me more about that team at NHS 24?
Sure. They're a phenomenal team, and I'm so proud to be part of it. We have, within our mental health services, we have psychological wellbeing practitioners, cognitive behavioural therapists, self-help coaches, mental health nurse practitioners, senior charge nurses, advisors, supervisors. But within our whole NHS 24 skill set, we also have call handlers, pharmacists, physiotherapists, a dental team, and many, many more.
Obviously, partnership working is really key to a lot of what we do in the NHS. Are there any other organisations that you're working with at the moment?
We're working really closely with the Scottish Government, NHS Education for Scotland and Public Health Scotland. We're working on all key aspects of the mental health strategy, but also our response to supporting people around COVID-19 and ensuring our information and educational resources are continuously updated.
And is there anything else that you can tell us about what you and your team are doing right now?
I suppose COVID-19 has seen the way that people access healthcare changing to more telephony and digital resources. However, Lisa, for us at NHS24, that's what we do best. We have introduced web chat over the past year or so, and that's certainly proven very effective, and probably more so for our younger population. We've lots of really valuable self-help guides for mental health on there. We have apps as well, and we're able to share key information about mental health and COVID-19 advice to the population.
And so is that service for everyone, or is it aimed at specific people?
We support the whole population of Scotland, Lisa. We are 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's the whole age range from the cradle to the grave. Anyone experiencing psychological trauma, distress, concerns about their mental health and well-being, and even more so now in these challenging times. We've certainly seen an increase in contacts to our mental health services and hits as we call it, on our NHS Inform sites. I was talking to one of my colleagues this morning who said that we actually had 7 million hits to NHS Inform in the month of January alone. That's the most we've ever had. And 120,000 of those were around mental health self-help guides.
And do you think the sort of increase in looking at mental health and self-help guides might be a result of the pandemic, or is it too early to say?
I think it absolutely is a result of the pandemic. The recent research published tells us that the population are experiencing probably more suicidal thoughts, more symptoms of anxiety and loss to lifestyle, bereavements, as a result of the pandemic, and people are reaching out. Again, those people that may not previously have reached out are reaching out now for support.
And what sort of support do people get when they do reach out to NHS24?
By telephone, you'll always get a caring and compassionate response from our teams. Our aim is to make it a seamless and supportive journey for anyone calling or contacting us. If we can, we'll try to support you within that one call to us. We'll do as much as we can. We offer a listening service. We can complete a holistic assessment. We'll offer psychosocial interventions, cognitive behavioural therapy, again, guided self-help, signposting, or if need be, onward referral.
And has COVID affected the service that you provide in any other ways?
I think I mentioned it slightly earlier that we've seen a rapid expansion in our mental health services, as you can imagine, as a result of COVID-19. We've developed valuable pathways with our colleagues at Police Scotland and Scottish Ambulance Service and raised more awareness of mental health supports available. We also have a distress brief intervention pathway, so we're able to refer people to the distress brief intervention programme. Again, it's not only us that can refer there are others that can do so. We also host the Health and Social Care Helpline, and that's for health and social care staff, and it's for concerns around their wellbeing. They can contact that helpline. Again, another change that's came about is that we are now 24/7. Prior to COVID, we were 7 evenings a week.
Do you find that it's a lot of the same themes that are coming through? What are people contacting NHS24 about?
So people are contacting us due to the impact of COVID-19 on their wellbeing. Those that probably already had pre-existing mental health conditions are probably feeling slightly worse. And people, as I mentioned before, who've never had symptoms of mental health conditions are now experiencing low mood, anxiety, feeling stressed and upset.
I think that will probably resonate with a lot of people as a result of being basically stuck in all the time. Do you have any advice for people struggling with their mental health just now?
I think it's just to keep the faith. Hope is in sight. We know it's really, really tough right now. People are getting tired. My advice is stick with it. Keep hope. And try to provide self-care to yourself. Be kind to yourself. I think at the start, we're all looking out for each other, and I think continue to do so, however, but just try to remember that self-care is not a luxury. We need to continually restore our own resilience to be able to support others. And resilience is what keeps us going, despite what stresses we've got at work, home life and loneliness. So because of the current restrictions, we need to adapt what we've done previously and develop new routines. As I mentioned, we have had 120,000 hits on our mental health self-help guides just in the month of January, so you're not alone. Absolutely not alone. So ask others how they're feeling. Try to share with them what helps you, what helps them. Sometimes listening to others and knowing you're not alone can help.
And do you have any practical tips for people who want to maybe develop new routines or try and adapt their own lifestyle?
Definitely. I think it helps to take care of your body. Something like lack of sleep can make us feel irritable and affect our concentration. Try to stick to regular sleep patterns, regular meal planning, meal times. I know I say it myself, I'm going to go for a walk every lunchtime. I don't think I've managed it yet, but try if you can, get out for a walk, get some fresh air. And again, make time to speak to at least one friend or family member a day, whether that's through FaceTime or a telephone call. Makes a world of difference. And I know quite a lot of people have actually joined online classes, online yoga, online quizzes, and have actually made some new friends through the digital resources out there. I guess also try and write things down, make plans, because quite often, like myself, I've got a lot of things in my head I think I'm going to do that day, and then I just don't get to them. So try to write things down, make yourself a diary, and I know you've probably heard it, but avoid less helpful coping strategies such as caffeine and drinking more alcohol. And again, try not to avoid others. Keep socially active.
Is there anywhere that people should turn to in terms of like staying socially active?
Keep with your supports that you have, your friends, your family, your colleagues, your culture, your faith. Mind Your Mind campaign that's out just now through Scottish Government, Clear Your Head campaign. All of these resources have key information on them of who to contact numbers, websites, lots of good information on there. There was a door drop leaflet that came through everyone's door in January, and again there was good information in there about mental health services.
And what about yourself? I know you said you've been trying to go for a walk at lunchtime, but is there anything else that you try and do as a habit to look after your own well-being? I
took up running probably about a year and a half ago, just pre-COVID actually. Probably towards the end of last year I did a few good runs, so just trying to run up to 5k a day. And one of them was the Run Solo, where you get a medal at the end of it. So I'd signed up for 150 kilometres, so I am quite driven. So if I sign up for something, I generally do it. So I think that in the early days I had shin splints and wasn't in the best state, but definitely felt much better for it mentally. To be able to just get out and get that half an hour to yourself, that alone time to reflect, clear your head, think things through, really, really helps me.
And is there anything else you do on top of like exercise? Do you ever like meditate or anything extra?
I'm laughing thinking about what we do in here. I've got a 10-year-old daughter who loves nothing better than a pamper session, so I'm quite delighted. So we quite often do mini spa days in the house, get the face masks on, and again, just that time to take your mind off things and do things that are kind of fun. I have lots of FaceTime chats with my friends and family, and I've had a few virtual nights in, which has been really good fun. We had a new addition to our family who arrived in October, and that's Xander, our Shih Tzu puppy. So again, he's quite entertaining, brought lots of love and fun, lots of walks with him.
Oh, that's lovely. What you're saying like about like doing your own sort of pamper night, like there's not much else you can really do. Like you can't get to the spa, can't go for a massage, so it's so nice to have that, like making it special in the house, I think.
Can. I think as well, any birthdays, Valentine's, Christmas, we've gone all out this year, making decorations and putting banners up and getting all dressed up in the house, just the 5 of us. But probably went above and beyond just because it was an event, something to look forward to and something different.
During your career, you've had quite a varied career. You've spent time delivering care in hospitals and also out in the community. So what was that like? Yeah,
fantastic. I've lots of fond memories. I think I'm quite humbled to have met so many influential people along my journey, and I guess the greatest privilege is actually working with our service users, those who are kind of experts by experience, being able to contribute to their recovery.
You've also been a lecturer in both college and universities, and you're a specialist practitioner in mental health and a teacher. Can you tell us more about that?
Being able to share my knowledge with learners in health and social care programmes in colleges and universities is what I enjoy most. I also occasionally still teach on the undergraduate nursing programme, and nurses returning to practice.
And what's been the most enjoyable time in your career? You know, considering how much you've packed into your career, what do you think you'd kind of reflect on as like the best?
I've been a nurse since February 2000, so I'm always keen and motivated for the next opportunity, you know, both clinically and academically. I think 21 years is quite a while, but it doesn't feel like that. It feels like it was only probably about 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 21 years. For me, it's probably been influencing many journeys for the users of our services and their carers and families, and being able to influence that recovery.
What's it been like sort of balancing work and learning and parenting during COVID?
Yeah, it's had its challenges. I'm a mum of 3 children, so I've got my daughter who's 10 and I've got 2 sons aged 9 and 7. They've been in school throughout this pandemic. My husband's a GP and also a key worker, so we're so thankful for the school that the children attend. They've been fortunate enough to go to their own school with their own teachers, but extremely grateful to the care and commitment of our teachers. I know they are equally trying to balance their own work and caring responsibilities, so it's really, really helped us to have happy, well cared for children throughout this. But it is hard, and at times I do find it a challenge to try and balance the working life with family time.
So this episode, we're doing a special International Women's Day episode. Does International Women's Day have any significance for you?
Yes, it's a time, I think, to celebrate the historical, political and cultural achievements of women. An opportunity to come together probably and show women how valued they are in today's society. Certainly as a mother of a strong little lady, I'm hopeful for her future.
And what about for women that have inspired you? Is there any that have inspired you in your personal or professional life?
I think personally my mum, someone I aspire to be like. She always puts the needs of others first. She's loving, thoughtful, caring and has a great sense of humour, and also a nurse of over 40 years. She retired last year and is now back loving life and vaccinating the nation.
Oh wow, so she's came back from retirement as a vaccinator?
Oh, yeah.
That is incredible. What about NHS 24? Is there any women in there that you admire or are inspired by?
Probably professionally, our executive nurse director, Maria, she joined our team at the start of the pandemic, right at the start, and has been an absolute strength, support and inspiration throughout. She's one of these people that's probably a true believer in genuine kindness and has the well-being of our team at heart. And
just to finish off, is there anyone else that you would like to recognise on International Women's Day?
I'm a big fan of Lorraine McIntosh from Deacon Blue, who is an inspirational role model. I think her kindness and generosity and care for others is evident. She has a dedicated focus on the Simon Community Charity for Scotland, and they raise vital funds to prevent youth homelessness, again, which ultimately impacts on mental health.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Lauren. It's been brilliant talking to you, and thank you so much for taking the time to join us for the podcast.
No, thank you, Lisa. Thank you for the opportunity. It's been lovely speaking with you.
Next up, we speak to Jessica Henderson, who is National Programme Director for the COVID-19 testing response. Jess is a really inspiring woman who works for NSS, and she's been involved with the COVID testing response from the very start of the pandemic in March 2020. She spoke to Steph from our comms team to tell us more.
Today, to mark International Women's Day, I'm joined by Jessica Henderson. Hi, Jessica.
Hello.
How are you doing today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you as well. Are you okay to tell us a little bit more about your role at NSS today?
Absolutely. So I've been at NSS for nearly 2 years now, and I joined as National Programme Director. Originally, that was around laboratory transformation across Scotland and working with the various health boards to look at how we develop a distributed service model and, I guess, deliver a more value-based approach to laboratory medicine. That programme was slightly scuppered, not completely, when COVID came along, and when the COVID response started kicking off back in March, we became involved. Very quickly, we'd seen from colleagues within the microbiology and virology labs that there was some issues, I think, in terms of access to COVID testing. So that's how we got involved. And ever since that, for nearly a year now, we've been involved in delivering the COVID response from a testing perspective. So that's been setting up 3 large regional testing hubs. That's been developing partner nodes with the academic and industry colleagues. We have transitioned over 1,000 care homes out of lighthouse testing and into the NHS. Quite significant work and very multidisciplinary across clinical, across digital, across procurement, and a number of different colleagues, very much multi-organisation as well. So it's been an amazing piece of work, actually, and certainly not quite what I signed up for when I joined NSS. But anyway,
absolutely.
Challenge.
What is your current job title, if you don't mind me asking?
I'm still retaining National Programme Director, but I'm also the laboratory capacity lead as well within the COVID response.
How did you end up in this current role? You've just said that this isn't exactly how you imagined it, but what is your career path? Like, how did you start with NSS?
Well, I've got quite a varied career path. So I did law back at Dundee University and had a young life crisis, I think is what I would say, because I realised I didn't like law. It was
we all have.
No disrespect to lawyers, but it was just not up my street at all. So I did an HR qualification after that because I quite liked employment law and I quite liked medical law. And I was quite passionate about the medical law side of things. And during that young life crisis, my mum actually worked as a sales rep for a pharmaceutical company. And she said, well, look, rather than working in a bar, which was what I was doing, it might be better to try and get a proper job and then work while you're working out what you want to do. And my kind of job's pretty straightforward and you get a nice car. So I was sold on that, to be honest. So when I went into the recruitment agency, rather than sales, they'd actually suggested I go into consulting. And by consulting, that meant bringing new pharmaceutical products to market. It meant also the working in the consulting arm that had the NHS transformation piece as well. So I was very lucky actually as a graduate because I went straight in as a graduate, moved down south to London and started with a group of people my age and we just had a lot of fun. The good thing about that job was I was thrown in the deep end and it was very much sink or swim. And I think that's probably where my passion for working with the NHS started. So I was working with an emerging clinical commission group at that point to develop itself as the Health and Social Care Act had been announced. And following that, this is a nice thing about International Women's Day, actually. Women have very much shaped my career. I think I've only ever had one male line manager, so I attribute all my success to women. But after that, I moved into private healthcare, and the managing director of that private healthcare company had actually previously been my client, who I'd worked very well with. And she'd encouraged me to apply for a post working directly with her. I was so lucky because she was so inspirational. She was an award-winning leader, and I really actually probably thank her specifically for my career. I think she's someone who taught me a lot and also exposed me to a lot at the same time. So I worked with her in BMI Healthcare, which is a private healthcare chain, and it has over 50 private hospitals. Dare I say it, a lot of the same problems as the NHS. I think private healthcare can often be perceived as luxury, but that was quite starved of funding, dare I say it, and the estate was not as fancy as you would expect. But I learned a lot and had the opportunities there. And once she parted ways with the company, I stayed on for a year, but was no longer feeling motivated and challenged, and went off and found something else, which landed me in an academic health science network, which again was a slightly different thing again. And that's an organisation called Imperial College Health Partners. They were brand new. They focused on bringing innovation into the NHS and working at a systems level. And again, another fantastic learning exercise, I think, and did lots of brilliant things down there. But it's interesting as a woman, like your life does change, and especially when you move into that having children piece, and it shouldn't. And I don't think it stifled my career, but it did change my priorities. And being down in London and commuting backwards and forwards into London from where I lived, and having issues with trains and not being able to pick the wee one up and not having family around meant that actually my priorities shifted and I wanted to be nearer home. So moved back up to Scotland. And at that point, I did a short stint in a health and social care partnership, which was great because I learned a little bit more about the Scottish landscape and how it operates, and some of the very real challenges about trying to bring two very different cultures together. And then following that, I joined NSS. And that brings me here today, which was leading the laboratories programme, which is still ongoing and will be kicking back off in style in April. And yeah, playing a key role on the laboratory testing response for COVID. So
Wow.
varied career, always interesting. I think that's always my priority, and always doing something to make things better is always where I aim to go as well. So
yeah, no, it's a great, even just your starting point, you know, like you found your interest doing a completely different subject, like doing law, and then you realised that it wasn't for you and it's taken you on a completely different path to what you did imagine for yourself. And I think that's a good lesson for just anyone to know, is that you don't need to stick with one set thing if that's not working out for you.
Absolutely.
You don't have to do what other people's expectations are for you as well. Like you said, your mother also gave you suggestions for what you could do, but that was helpful for you. Like she stepped in and gave you some guidance, which is really helpful. But you like made up your own mind about what you wanted to do, and that's how you got where you are today. And it's really admirable.
And I think it is listen to your gut, isn't it? I mean, they always say no right path, and I think that's absolutely right. You've got to do something you're interested in. And if you're not interested, then work is such a big part of your life. And if you're not enjoying that, then there's, you know, it's a problem, quite frankly. You know, you've got to be motivated, and you've got to feel like you're doing something that's meaningful to you. And that's things, whether that is being a lawyer or whether that is, you know, working in IT or doing programs or being a doctor or a range of different things, you know. So it's, absolutely. Right.
Like you said, it's about, you want to make a difference for other people and feel like your work means something, but then it also has to mean something to you as well, because otherwise what is the point? So would you say you have like a few main achievements you could point to in your current role? You've already gave me like a range of things that you've accomplished since the COVID pandemic hit, but it doesn't need to be specifically that, just anything that comes to mind that you're like really proud of as an individual, but both with your team as well.
Absolutely. Well, I think the first thing that comes to mind is my team, actually. I have no idea how this fabulous team have stuck with it in the most challenging of circumstances, with the most challenging of timeframes. And we're all working in a challenging environment, professionally and personally. You know, people with children at home, working under pressure, isolated, maybe not moving from their computer all day. I'm certainly a victim of that quite often. And then obviously kind of with the professional challenges and everyone being stretched in terms of their abilities and their capacity. So I think the fact that my team have been so incredible, I think is one of the things that I'm proudest of, because they've demonstrated real leadership at every single level. They've taken initiative and they've all stepped up. So that's one of the proudest things I would say is the people I've worked with. And that goes for communities out in the boards as well, and across Scottish Government. I think everyone's been absolutely incredible. So there's the people piece. But, you know, standing up 3 regional hubs, that's testing laboratories for COVID, that's 22,000 capacity in the NHS now for testing. We did that in 3 months. That's the kind of thing that would normally take a year and a half.
I've heard that a lot, like lots of different projects that would take a year, 2 years being done in less than 6 months. It's just crazy how much you can get done under that sort of pressure. But we can do it. You can absolutely pull things together when push comes to shove. It's just amazing.
It can be done. And I think we mustn't lose some of that as well. You know, that agility I think that we've had. Now, don't get me wrong. I think, you know, in an ideal world, there'll be a bit more time to plan and do things effectively. But given the constraints we were working in, I think it was great. The other thing I'm really proud of, I would say, is that care home work as well. We have developed a full testing pathway, and that's working with IT, working with procurement. We've innovated around it, and we have brought over 1,000 care homes into the NHS. And that has been no mean feat. That has been probably one of the most challenging pieces of work. Again, over a very short time frame. That was delivered in about 6 weeks. So it's phenomenal. I think there is a lot to be proud of, I think, across NSS in general in terms of COVID response. But I would definitely like to say that the team have been absolutely outstanding. So that's the proudest thing.
I'm sure they'll appreciate the shout out.
they know it anyway.
Yeah. So would you say the NSS is good at supporting women in the workplace? Have you got any sort of people that you look up to, like you've said before, or I don't know, any other examples that you would say, yes, like NSS is completely for women and does support us?
NSS is great. I mean, when you look at the leadership, it's lovely to see a female chief exec coming in. And that's what I like about the NHS, actually. It is a much better gender balance. So I think you can see that. There's not sort of male dominated. There's a much better gender split. And I think they do work hard to accommodate people. Certainly personally, I do flexible working. I do compressed hours, which gives me a Friday off with my little girl. Not always possible lately with the COVID response, but you know what, I've got it back, and the offer, that allowed me to get the best out of work, but also get the best out of being a mum. And that's important to me. I think the flexible working and being able to get out and about and sort of slightly customize your hours, obviously being cognizant of business requirements, is really good. That's one thing I would definitely say.
So they appreciate work-life balance.
Very much. And work-life balance is great. And, it doesn't matter who you are, you've got access to the same opportunities, I think, in NSS. If you want to do training or if you want to diversify your career, one thing that would not feel to me that would stop me would be the fact that I'm a woman. Now, don't get me wrong, you will always, I certainly find personally as a woman, I do sometimes come across challenging situations, particularly maybe because I'm a bit younger as well, where you will I have walked into rooms of middle-aged men who have basically not acknowledged me. And, luckily good preparation has meant that I was heard. But you do get these behaviours, and it is really disappointing in this day and age. But certainly from the perspective of working at NSS, it's something I've never seen as from any of the colleagues that I've worked across. So yeah,
that's really good.
Glowing recommendations.
That's great. It's brilliant. Yeah, like even myself, I've noticed how many people are women like that I work with, and I find it amazing that there's such a balance like between the genders. I don't think I've encountered that before, so it's been really refreshing. And final question, what does International Women's Day mean to you personally?
So there's two things for me. I mean, there's one thing about celebrating how fantastic women are, and it's lovely to see the fact that NSS is celebrating this and bringing in some of the women from across NSS to contribute to this. The other part actually is there's still more to do. I sort of referenced the fact that I do get bad behaviours as a woman. I have experienced discrimination in the past, and that's someone like me. And that means that it is common, it is a problem, and it's still ongoing. So there is more to do, and that's nationally and globally. I mean, if you look at the inequalities globally. So for me, it's two things. It is, women are great. Let's maximise their skills, their talent, and give them the opportunities to grow across all industries and across all settings. However, at the same time, we need to do more to make that happen. So for me, there's two things. So yeah,
it's made like great progress so far, but there's always that bit that still needs done.
Yeah. I mean, there's a gender pay gap nationally still, and having a child has often held women back as a result. And it shouldn't. I don't think men particularly get penalised for having children, and neither should women. It's a sad thing. It's often a lifestyle choice as well. That's up to each individual, but at the same time, it's just very sad to see that. And I would love to see more done to close that gap. Although I do believe we are a bit better in the NHS. So
yeah, we are definitely. I would say watching all the women that I do work with juggling childcare and doing great work for the services is just amazing. Myself, I don't have any children, and I struggle. So you're all amazing, being able to juggle being a mother, a wife, or a girlfriend, and working full-time, part-time, whatever you like for the NHS.
Absolutely.
It's admirable, absolutely amazing work.
Yeah, I mean, I take my hat off to colleagues who've had them at home. Luckily, I managed to get mine into nursery, but that's tough. I mean, it is really tough. And I have had her home a few days, and Do you know what's been quite nice about it is that we've actually sort of seen a little bit more into people's lives and met everyone's families, which is quite nice as well,
you see that everyone's the same, that we've all got our own struggles on the go, and like life isn't perfect behind the scenes, so you shouldn't scrutinise yourself if you are struggling.
Right.
That was great. Thank you so much for joining me today, Jessica.
It's a pleasure. Thank you very much for having me.
I've been talking to the facility team within NSS, and they really wanted to shout about the things that they do in the background, sometimes unnoticed. Joanne Smith, facilities manager for the facility services within NSS, spoke to Hannah about all the things they've been doing in the background throughout the pandemic and making sure all of our locations are still up and running for hopefully when we can get back to the office.
Today on the podcast, I'm joined by Joanne Smith. Could you just chat to me a bit about yourself?
I work for a Procurement Commission in Facilities. Obviously, that's an SB within NSS. This includes national procurement, Health Facilities Scotland, and we provide a range of services to stakeholders, including the Health Board, Scottish Government, and the wider public sector. Facilities management sits within Health Facilities Scotland, and we support NSS and other health boards by providing building related services such as security, domestic cleaning, estate services. My career before I started with NSS, I'm actually a qualified chef. I went to catering college many years ago.
Oh, really?
I won't say when because that gives an idea of my age. So I went to catering college, got my qualifications and went into the workplace as a chef, worked my way up into management. So I was then a chef manager. And I actually joined NSS in 2002. I moved up to Scotland at the same time from England. It was quite a big move for me, moving out of away from my family, but also quite exciting. And then my role that I received with NSS in 2002 was as NSS catering manager. So at the time, I was responsible for one of our old buildings. It was actually Trinity Park House. That was before we moved to the Gyle. And since then, we've obviously got Meridian Court. We have the Jack Copeland Centre. Over the years, I've done various secondments. So quite a few years ago, I worked as a job evaluator for Agenda for Change. This was when all the job evaluations were being updated. Everyone's job descriptions were updated under Agenda for Change. That was a really good experience. I then went back to my substantive role as a catering manager, and shortly after went on to another secondment as an assistant business support manager, again within facilities, which was really good because it gave me that background knowledge into the system side. So part of that role, I was implementing the existing booking system that we use today. Love it or hate it for meeting room bookings. It's also our help desk. So I was heavily involved in the implementation of that, which was a really good experience and I really enjoyed it. I then went on to be successful as accommodation services manager. So that's my current substantive role. So within that role, I am the lead person for Allsoft FM, which is security, waste, domestic services, catering, office services like reception and mailroom. So it's been really good and it's varied from day to day. Yeah, that's my kind of career path since I left school, college, up to existing.
So that leads me nicely on to our next question, Joanne. What would you say have been your main achievements within your current role?
I guess the most recent thing that comes to mind is the working alongside my colleagues in FM management, other NSS colleagues, and of course supporting our operational staff across the estate to ensure our buildings remain open during the pandemic. I'm really proud of how the FM team pulled together, and I'm really proud to be part of FM and support NSS to continue to be able to work safely in the workplace. The operational staff have been in the office every day, cleaning, providing food offering, and the estates team have continued to ensure our buildings continue to function. Obviously, without our operational teams, we wouldn't be able to operate and open our buildings. And I think lastly, I'd say the most recent opportunity, I'm currently on a 6-month secondment as a facilities manager. That's due to end at the end of this month. But it's given me an opportunity to focus more on a strategic role within facilities, developing the service and the teams. And I've really enjoyed that the last 6 months within this role. And it's given me a different perspective on the strategic side of the organisation. So I've really enjoyed that, and I'm proud of what I've achieved during the time I've been in the role as well.
Your current sort of secondment is coming to an end soon. What are you moving on to after that?
I'm due to go back to my substantive role, so accommodation services manager. So although I was still leading on, I was still part of FM, and I was still part of accommodation services or soft FM. It will be more of a management operational role I will be going back into.
Tell us something that we didn't know about the operations side of what you do.
It's vast. FM covers areas such as space management, compliance relating to water, asbestos, fire safety, waste management, capital planning, sustainability, and obviously the day-to-day management of our buildings. You've got your cleaning services, which everybody knows. I think the operational side, such as your services, cleaning, catering, reception, mailroom, that's what people are aware of. It's, I guess, from the background, all the other things that FM are responsible for and do to ensure our buildings are functioning. There's a vast whole load of work that goes on it behind the scenes with with all areas of FM estates, with projects. It'd be too much to go into in a podcast, put it that way.
How have things changed for you and your team during the course of the pandemic? It's hard to believe that we're a year into it now.
I guess it's most of the management team, not all, but most of the management team, including myself, are working from home now, like many others in NSS. But I guess initially FM worked closely at the beginning of the pandemic, setting up management systems and processes to ensure that the buildings continue to operate, because at the very start there were still a lot of staff that needed to operate from the buildings. We've been working alongside NSS colleagues, a part of the workplace recovery group, to ensure continued compliance and safety of the buildings. But this also goes to NHS 24. We've supported NHS 24 massively over the last year. Obviously, their workload has significantly increased. The demand for their services has increased. So we've been supporting them with ensuring that we provide essential cleaning of their buildings. We've also been providing what we would call COVID cleans. So if a member of staff, and this is for NSS and NHS 24, happens to be on site and they become symptomatic, then we would carry out a clean of that area. And that's been huge, particularly for NHS 24, when they have probably more staff working at their sites currently. Yeah. And I think it's highlighted the domestic service, potentially people didn't think before. But actually it's so required to ensure that we can work safely. And I think it's been a good thing. And the team, the operational team, they've all pulled together. Staff that maybe they weren't cleaners in there before the pandemic have pulled together, and they support the cleaning service as well. So I think it's just been a huge team building exercise as well, I guess, like many other teams and SBUs. We've all pulled together. And if anything that can come out of a whole pandemic, I think that's a positive. And I think as well, obviously those working from home, we've now, obviously IT, we've now got Teams, and most of us sit most of the day on Teams. I guess that's been a huge thing as well, is the fact that working from home has changed. Some people love it, some people hate it. I actually really love working from home. I feel like I can focus better. So from a personal perspective, the work-life balance for myself, working from home, not having to travel to work, trying to get parking space, has been really positive. But I do understand that we still have to try and keep connected with those staff that are working on the sites, and Teams has really helped that. And I think IT did an excellent job in rolling it out so quickly.
We're going to now focus on one or two questions about International Women's Day. How does NSS support women within the work?
I guess from a professional perspective, and also personal, we've got so many policies that support staff, not just women, but all staff. We have the flexible working, maternity, parental leave, and there's also great opportunities with career development. And I that isn't just for women, but I do think it's easier to progress within the organisation, and I do think that it's fairer. Certainly since I've been with NSS, I do feel that it's a lot fairer than some of the workplaces I've worked before. So, and I think a lot of that is around policies and the support that NSS, the organisation, gives to their staff.
What does International Women's Day mean to you?
So I guess it's a day to recognise women's achievements over the years, raise awareness of some of the obstacles women come up against, not only in the workplace, but in life. This year's theme, I understand, is Choose to Challenge. So I guess it's a time to come together and challenge any bias and inequality, and to help forge an inclusive workplace world, however you see it. Women have come a long way over the generations, and we certainly don't want to be going backwards. There's still a long way to go, depending on where you work, where you live. And I think this is a positive focus on women in the world, and that taking it forward, that everyone's consistently treated fairly in life.
It's been really interesting. Thank you.
Thanks, Hannah.
Listening to this episode of the podcast, and thank you so much for everyone who took the time to be involved in the interviews.
We really appreciate you for tuning in, and again, just to echo what Karen said, thank you to everyone who has taken part. Thank you for liking and sharing our podcast. It really helps us get our messages out there and showing people what's behind the scenes at NSS. Remember, this podcast is available on YouTube, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, basically everywhere where you like to get your podcasts. And you can also keep up to date with the latest episodes on our Twitter account and LinkedIn. On Twitter, we're at NHSNSS, and on LinkedIn, you just search for NHSNSS. Thank you.
Thank you.